Let's welcome in our morning guest at this point of time. Mayuresh Joshi is with us, Shrikant Chauhan is with us, as well as Sumit Bagadia is joining us. Shrikant, let's start with you. Before we go to your picks, names like Colgate, names like HUL, do you think they are in a positive trajectory and they could be one of the buzzing stocks today and in the next few days?
Good morning, Pankaj. I think the way FMCG space is doing since last almost few weeks, one thing is very clear that there is a renewed interest that we are seeing in the market, as well as there is a good amount of buying in large cap companies, especially Hindustan Liver, which is which was around 1,000 levels, but it is now sustaining well above that mark, close to those marks. So I'm of the view that it is heading for minimum 1,050, 1,060 in next couple of days. But if we take a view of next 3 to 6 months, then I'm of the view that this particular space is going to buzz, and we are going to see a lot of activity in all these companies which are from the basket of FMCG. We like ITC, which is around 275, 280 levels. There we have a target of close to 330, 340. Liver close to 1150 is the next target to watch out for. And Dabur, which is currently around 270, 275 levels. There also we have a target of close to 300 plus. Asian Paints, Pidilite. So I think this space definitely is going to give returns to short-term as well as medium-term investors.
Right. What will be your top picks apart from these names?
Pankaj, for the day, we are going to focus more and more on capital goods and engineering or infrastructure space. From that space, especially we like ABB, which is around 1470, 1480 levels, and it is into a long-term breakout pattern. Based on the pattern, we are of the view that it is heading for 2,000 plus kind of levels in next couple of months. But at least in the short term, 1440, 1450 is going to act as a very good support for it. And yesterday it was down. So now the risk-reward ratio is quite favorable. With the same stop loss at 1440, we can take long position in ABB and we can keep a target of close to 1570, 1600 on the high side. Other than this, we also like NCC and HCC, but NCC particularly is into impulse mode and it is heading for 125 kind of levels in next few weeks. Currently it is around 96, 98 levels. Take long positions at these levels, keep a stop loss at 93, 94, and for next few days we are expecting target of close to 105 to 110.
All right. Sumit, what are your top picks for the day?
Hi, good morning, Anisha. Well, few picks for the day. First one is from IT space, and that is Wipro. Yesterday we saw a good move in most of the IT stocks, and now looking at these sector, it seems that the stocks can perform in next couple of weeks. Immediately, Wipro can be the best trading bet at present levels. One can initiate long positions in Wipro at CMP, or if there is a dip of around 5 to 7 points from present levels, then that can be used as a good buying opportunity. On downside, one can maintain stop loss of around 510 levels for the upside target of 550 as an immediate target. And if 550 is taken away on closing basis, then there is a possibility that we might see extended move till 575, 580 levels. The second pick for the day is from Pharma space. We feel that most of the pharma stocks are giving good move from lower levels. So we have selected Sun Pharma as the best stock to trade in. Sun Pharma is looking good on charts. From here on, we can see upside move in the counter, in which 670 can be the immediate target, and if 670 is taken away on closing basis with volumes, then there is a possibility that we might see extended move till 700 levels. So for a trading perspective, one can initiate long position in Sun Pharma at CMP with a stop loss to be placed at 640 levels on lower side for the initial target of 670 and then 700 levels. And the third pick for the day is PNB, and that is on sell side. Yesterday we saw a sell-off in the counter. And now looking at the charts, looking at the structure, it seems that some more weakness can be seen in next 3 to 4 days time horizon. And on downside, there is a possibility that we might see levels of around 148. So for a trading perspective, for next 3 to 4 days time horizon, one can initiate sell position in PNB at CMP, or if there is a small pullback of around 2 to 3 points from present levels, then that can be used as a selling opportunity, with a stop loss to be placed at around 163 levels on higher side for the downside target of 148 levels.
All right, let's quickly pull up the currency as well, because a day earlier we saw a drop of nearly 1% for the currency as well. Today it's just stable. It has gained just about 7 pesos, so 5 pesos, not a big move coming in yet, but we're kind of weak. Right. Sumit, you'll be selling Punjab National Bank, right?
Yes, absolutely. Punjab National Bank is a sell call.
Right. Mayuresh, good morning. What are your top picks for the day?
Morning, Anisha. So I think from the mid-cap universe, AkzoNobel came out with a good set of numbers in my opinion. And largely, again, I think the entire play in terms of repainting demand going up over the next few years is going to be a trigger for most paint companies, along with the addition of the fact that the unorganized to the organized play is going to be a big trigger for paint companies as well. Raw materials are stabilizing at this point of time. So it's the leverage in terms of volumes, and they've actually grown their top line better than most players in the industry as well. So the new coating facility, which is expected to come out in Noida, I think that will create further leverage in terms of an earnings momentum. So AkzoNobel is something that I am liking from the current levels as well. And the second stock from the logistics space would be Navkar Corporation. More than the EXIM trade or the risk from the EXIM trade, it is the value and the volume share gain that this stock can gain from. Vapi accounts for almost 27-30% of JNPT volumes. They've got an ICD facility in Vapi. They've got a rail connectivity there. So I think the volumes which they were not able to cater to, even at the current juncture, if one really assumes the same volumes to continue over the next 2 years, the volume share gain can be significant in terms of earnings accretion to the company. So Navkar Corporation is something from the mid-cap universe that I'll be keeping my eyes out on.
Right. Bank of Baroda is a company that will be reacting to numbers. Let's look at the numbers. I think there was a marginal positive surprise as far as slippages are concerned. But apart from that, the numbers are looking absolutely in line. PAT numbers 150 crores, but always profitability is all over the place for these companies. NII 3,431 crores. That's the net interest income. And operating profits have come at about 3,020 odd crores. So there was a lot of provisioning. In terms of gross NPA, absolutely flat in an absolute amount. It was expected to be flat. So it was not expected to also change much. In terms of net NPAs, 1,800 crores versus 1,900 crores. So there was a decline over there, but that was because of higher provisioning. 10.5% is what the company has done in terms of percentage gross NPA because the loan growth was strong. Credit costs were high. At the same time, the company said that slippages were close to about 4,100 crores. That was in line. So between 4 to 4,500 is what was expected, and that's broadly what has come in. As far as their FY18 outlook is concerned, they have not given a very specific guidance, but they have said that they expect an improvement from FY17. So one can infer that the worst in terms of slippages, in terms of asset quality is behind. That's essentially, what one can infer. Some of the other companies like Cummins also declared numbers. They will be reacting to add. A lot of these companies from GST space would also be reacting. You have Pidilite that declared numbers. Plus there is an impact of GST. All of that will be in focus. Names like VIP, AkzoNobel are all well-tracked mid-cap companies that will be reacting to what happens as far as markets are concerned. Let's just wait for the opening. I think just a few seconds before one can see markets opening. That's the first trade for you. So 40 points higher as far as Nifty is concerned. Bank of Baroda is 3 rupees higher right now. Asian Paints about 9 rupees lower. I think that there is a GST play in Asian Paints as well. Slight bit of increase in their indirect tax that they pay. So, but I don't think it's quite material. Tata Steel 3 to 4 rupees higher. ONGC, Wipro, Ambuja Cements are some of the other names that are on the positive side. Reliance is up 6 rupees, 1,333. That's the earnings impact for Bank of Baroda, 192 as far as BOB is concerned, 193 right now. So that's among the top gainers as far as Bank of Baroda is concerned. It's reacting to numbers. It's reacting to what's happening as far as slippages are concerned. Cummins is down about 4 to 5 odd percent. That's again, that's a company that's reacting to numbers. Remember, there was a big miss as far as numbers are concerned in terms of the sales, in terms of EBITDA. Pidilite not reacting much to the numbers, 774. Let's just wait and watch what happens over there. But I think one would say that it's yet to open. Volumes, however, are good considering its average of 16,000 right now. But that would always be the case, when you have such sort of move coming in. That's Laurus Lab, 2.5% higher, reacting to numbers. Let's look at Muthoot Finance. That's up 6%. Very strong numbers on the face of it. You'll hear from the management in just a bit as we progress on the show. 5% higher right now. CESE is up close to about 5% right now. So, of course, there was all this confusion that what's happening with their restructuring, what's happening over there. That's up around 5.5% at this point of time. 45, 46 rupees for CESE. Colgate Palmolive is up 4%. That's the GST impact that we were talking about. So that's taking that particular stock higher. You have Tata Global Beverages up close to 2.5%. JSW Steel is on the positive side. Imami is reacting positively. Maybe that's got to do with what's happening with the entire GST news that is coming in. Dalmia Bharat, Sun TV are some of the other gainers. So Anisha, it looks like it's a good opening, and especially for names that have some news flow, even volumes are pretty high.
Yes, on the volumes, we are seeing GMDC up 7.5%, Subex is up 7%, CESE was down 15%, clawing back now, up 5%. You mentioned Muthoot Finance. Tata Coffee is also higher. So we've got tax rates for some of these processed foods, and perhaps on that we are seeing a move coming in Tata Coffee. Bajaj Hindustan is well up 4%. United Bank of India came out with its earnings just after market close. It's up 3.5%. Indo Solar is up 3%. Suzlon ahead of its earnings up about 3%, and ITC is a heavyweight that's up 3%. So that is really going to buoy up the markets today. No losers as such actually. Most of the stocks are gaining. In fact, on the Nifty also we are seeing very strong breadth. Just about 7 stocks trading in the red, largely from the IT space, seeing a little bit of profit taking coming in after the move, seeing a day earlier, perhaps a little bit of consolidation being seen by the IT names. Now the Nifty is at 9481, up 0.5% now, so we're having a good move across some of the FMCG names, and that is really buoying up the market. Now, what would you do, Mayuresh, with some of these technology names? Like Sumit already likes Wipro, but even TCS had a big up move a day earlier. Hexaware also moved up well. Do you think these are one-off moves? Would you still avoid technology sector, or do you think this is a good time to accumulate some of these stocks?
Now again, Anisha, I think from a long-term perspective, it does make sense from a valuation angle. But again, I think the headwinds will largely continue for the sector as a whole. What you're probably seeing in terms of rupee appreciation will play negatively in terms of the EBIT margins for Q1. Couple that up with salary hikes that are expected to come through will take the sheen off in terms of the EBIT margins as well. Third, again, I think in terms of the discretionary spending patterns itself and the transition to digital automation technology, my own sense is that the client shifting on the discretionary side is going to be very, very gradual over the next few quarters, and the companies themselves are in a very transitory mode at this point of time. So the valuations look very, very attractive for large cap players. My own sense is that they'll be market performers at best. So I think there'll be better times to accumulate these stocks. So I think I'll be waiting for better opportunities over the next few weeks.
Right. Just wanted to highlight the stock of Cummins India. Cummins India is down about 8%. There was a big miss on the earnings. So whether you talk about the sales front, you talk about the EBITDA front. In fact, EBITDA miss was bigger, and the sales miss was slightly lower. But 7% decline. Remember, the stock was up 5% yesterday, going into the numbers, and that's why you just get a sense that this is the sort of reaction that you are seeing on Cummins India. 7 to 7.5% in terms of decline right now. Very, very strong move for the stock. But the stock is a MNC stock. It tends to react on the positive side quite quickly. So you can just see it was down some 8% when we just started, and now it's down about 5% 993 for Cummins. That's essentially what you're seeing on Cummins India. Shrikant, any view on Cummins? It's a stock which doesn't fall much.
I think this space is definitely going to do well in next few weeks or few months, and I think it's an opportunity for medium term as well as positional traders to take long positions, because most of the time we have seen that on the day of result this particular company disappoints and it falls to the extreme levels, but again it recovers back after say like few weeks of time. So I think it's a great opportunity to invest, because all these capital goods and engineering stocks are really doing well, and we should be buyer even at current levels.
Right. Do you think that you mentioned about capital goods in the morning, and that's why you would say that this would tend to see buying? So we saw that with ACC and ABB and Siemens as well. That once the numbers came out, there was a miss, there was a reaction on the negative side, but then these stocks bounced back.
Yeah, Pankaj, because see, we are into a specific bull run, and where we have seen a sectoral rotation. So after seeing the massive activity in or rally in banks and metal, now we are expecting rally out of capital goods and engineering space, and that's why we are of the view that we should be take top-down approach, and accordingly we can look for taking positions in this kind of stocks with a trading as well as investment point of view.
Right. Mayuresh, what will be your call on Colgate? It's up 5% right now. Of course, there is a GST impact that is happening in. But for a company like Colgate, which is paying 26% effective tax rate, going ahead expected to pay 18%, that's a very big bump up on the margins.
Oh yes, but again, as you rightly pointed out in your opening remarks, I think some of the units are tax exempt.
No, I said that Colgate pays the entire tax. Others have tax exempt units. So Colgate is a full tax paying company.
So largely, again, I think if you look at the pass-through which will come through for all these companies, Pankaj, I think it's an anti-profiteering move that GST Council has probably come out with. So it's not necessary that even if the tax rates come down, I think they're going to make huge profits out of it. The advantage that these companies have is going to be on volumes and the operating leverage, because the unorganized players at this point of time have two advantages, both on price and not paying tax. So I think as the tax compliance increases and as the pricing comes down in terms of toothpaste and toothbrushes actually being sold at lower prices, I think the volume growth can be quite substantial. Colgate incidentally has a significant market share at this point of time. If they're able to expand that even by a few bips over the next few years because of all these factors, I think the numbers will play out very, very meaningfully. So yes, I think good quality stock. I think the earnings growth has always been maintained. ROEs, ROCs in excess of 80-90 odd %. So you can't ask for more.
Right, and it's a company which people like, so investors have faith in Colgate?
Oh yes, I mean, even when a daughter goes out to buy, she says, let's buy a Colgate. So I think you can see the moat that they have created around the brand. So toothpastes are signified by Colgate even at this point of time and in this digital era and competition as well. So yes, I think the positives probably are there for Colgate over the long run.
Right, let's just pull up the stock of ITC as well. So you are going to get the rate for the tobacco today, or it's been not discussed as of now. So it's going to be discussed in the council meet today. So that will be a stock that will be in focus. Or basically we can say that there is no clarity on tobacco right now, but it's up around 5 odd %, 6 odd %, assuming that most of the rates have been on the positive side, or most of the rates are something that are not essentially negative so far. That's probably the reason why markets are thinking that ITC should also do well. Mayuresh, what would be your call on ITC? You think it's a big underperformer on the FMCG index? Any positive news flow on the tax front on GST? The stock can rally even further?
So I think the markets, Pankaj, to a large extent have discounted the sin tax that is expected to come through, and if the tax is maintained, which in all probability looks like, my own sense is that the underperformance that ITC has given more or less to do with the volume degrowth that it had witnessed because of the price increases that it had taken. I think that underperformance can very well get out of the books. I think the other parts of the businesses that ITC runs have largely been laggards. So if you look at the hotels business, the agri-trading business, the paper business, I think as these businesses start bouncing back, the consolidated numbers should start appearing far better than what we are seeing right now. The cigarette EBIT contribution is still very, very significant on their balance sheet. And again, I think with no significant increases expected on the indirect tax front as GST starts kicking in, and with expectations of tax rates assumed on the sin tax front to be maintained, my own sense is that there is potential upside still left onto the counter. So yes, both in terms of valuations and earnings perspective, I think the stock looks very decently poised.
Right. Sumit, what's your call on ITC? What are the levels to watch out for? I think this is already trading at a resistance zone, or we have seen this level earlier as well.
See, Pankaj, the stock has now final resistance at around 300 levels, which is the psychological level. I think immediately it has taken out the resistance with the volume. Earlier, the highs in the stock were somewhere at around 288, 289 levels, or to be very precise, 290 levels. Now it's trading about 290 levels, and now the immediate resistance comes around is at 300, which is a psychological level for the stock. If the stock is able to break 300 convincingly with volumes, then we will see a decent upside move in the counter, in which we can see levels of around 325, 330 as the overall target. I think at present the counter is looking strong on charts. So those who have taken long positions at lower levels, they can hold on their existing long positions, and one can initiate fresh long positions in the counter as well, with the stop loss to be placed at around 283 or 284 levels. This should be the stop loss for a trading perspective for an immediate upside till 300 levels, and a closing above 300 with volumes and a breakout and a closing above 300 can take stock prices to 325 and 330 levels in next couple of weeks.
Right. Shrikant, what would be your call on Yes Bank? That's a name which has sold off quite significantly of late.
I think it was like overrated, and it was close to its resistance level when it was around 1640, 1650 levels. From there, after say like forming some negative divergence kind of formation on daily basis, now the stock is falling, but the fall is vertical, and now it is very close to its 50% retracement of its entire rise. So I am of the view that at current levels 1370, 1380 is the level to take long positions, because it's a over retracement in the short. As well as we are of the view that all these private banks are going to do well. In fact, they are going to do extremely well in next couple of weeks or months. So it's a buy at current levels, add more on dips, we are again expecting stock to hit the levels of 1550, 1560 on the high side. In fact, we also like DCB, Federal Bank and ICICI Bank, even at current levels with a medium-term point of view.
Right. Sumit, what do you do with the stock like CESE? It was down 15% a day earlier. Any advice for investors who perhaps are holding this counter?
See, the overall power sector is looking good to me. As far as CESE is concerned, it has, for a longer term time horizon, the counter is very good. In such fall, one should use or accumulate the stock for a longer term time horizon of 6 to 12 months. Immediately, as far as technical levels are concerned, the stock has major support at around 800, 810 levels. If by chance these levels are taken away, then there is a possibility that we can see some more downside in the counter, in which we can see levels of around 740, 750. Till that time, these levels are not taken away, we will see a pullback in the counter, in which we will see 930, 940 as an immediate target. And the overall bullishness in the counter can be seen once when stock is able to break 970, 980 on higher side. That means immediately the range for the stock is placed between 810 levels to 940, 950 levels on higher side. Now immediately those who have taken positions, they can hold on the existing long positions with a stop loss to be placed at around 810 or 805 levels. And if anyone wants to initiate a fresh trade in the counter, then they can initiate at CMP also, or if there is a dip of around 10 to 20 points from present levels, then they can initiate fresh longs for the immediate upside till 930, 940 levels.
All right, Mayuresh, would you approach or consider any of the Jay Prakash group names, JP Associates, JP Power Ventures, or JP Infratech? You know, there's a lot of talk about the debt restructuring happening, and you know, the RERA is about to be rolled out very soon, so they are under pressure to deliver the properties that have been delayed for a very long time. Do you think one can look at investments in any of these counters?
Not really, Anisha. So at this point of time, I think if I have to take a play on both aspects in terms of the restructuring of the group, I think the banks is something that I'll probably look at, or I'll probably lend to them. So in that sense itself, I think any restructuring appears to be a very positive move for a lot of bankers who have probably taken a hit in terms of provisioning. On the other side of your aspect in terms of the real estate regulatory bill as well, I think Brigade Enterprises is something that I've been liking. Any decline onto this counter, in my opinion, appears to be a very good buying opportunity, because if you look at their three business segments, the hotels business is doing exceptionally well. The annuity business has been generating cash flows and throwing out cash in proportions that probably just undervalue the stock on an overall basis, and that is probably highlighted by the fact that the residential part of the business is probably lagging behind. So again, I think the bunch up of receivables that can come through from the residential business can be quite substantial for a company like Brigade, and there appear to be significant potential upsides as and when they start recognizing this on their balance sheet. So I think if I have to take a play, I think it will be banks, or from the real estate space, I think Brigade looks very, very interesting to me at this point of time.
All right. Shrikant, what would you do with some of the pharmaceutical stocks? We've seen some action in IT counters. Any from the pharmaceutical space that are looking good to you that can be accumulated?
See, I think the way they have fallen in recent times, and they are now very close to their previous lows, because if we take the chart on yearly basis, then they are very close to their yearly lows. Such kind of formations are always like beneficial for those who want to take long positions in the market, because these are like all large cap companies and they have fallen. It's a distress kind of selling that we are seeing in the market, especially for pharma stocks, and stocks like Sun Pharma and Lupin Laboratories. Definitely we can look for adding at current levels, but with a medium term to long term point of view, because in the short term the news flow is not that positive, or it is not like going to support the short-term trend of the market. So based on technicals, we are of the view that because they are very close to their immediate lows, I'm to say on yearly basis, it's a great buy, it's a great risk-reward ratio for positional traders. We like Lupin Laboratories in that space. Currently it is around 1320, 1350 levels. We are again expecting stock to again rebound to the levels of 1450, 1460. But if there is a short-term view, then certainly we can look for adding stocks like Cadila Healthcare, Natco, as well as Dishman Pharma. These three stocks are really showing a lot of strength on daily as well as on weekly basis. And currently, because of the overall retracement in the market, they are very close to their important supports. So at current levels, we can take long positions with a price target of close to 5 to 8% on the high side.
Samit, what would you do with ICICI Bank? It staged a good comeback day earlier. It opened weak, but then is now, around the resistance area of 310. What would you do with this stock?
See, Anisha, the stock overall has given breakout above 300 levels, and in last 2 to 3 days we have seen that the counter has been sustaining above the 300 levels, which says that the counter is strong. And overall, if we see, after a long time it has given this breakout, so we feel that from here on we will see a decent upside move in the counter in next couple of months. In next 2 to 3 months time horizon, we can see a move around 30 to 40 points from present levels. That means a move of around almost 10 to 15%. On higher side, immediately the stock is headed for 330 as an immediate target. Then overall we can see levels of around 350. Because of volatility, because of some correction in the market if comes, then there is a possibility that we might see some correction in the counter too. But overall, any such dip in the ICICI Bank should be used as buying opportunity. In fact, we feel that if anyone initiates positions at the current market price, then also there is no problem, because the overall structure is looking good. So immediately the stock is headed for 330 levels, and if 330 is taken away, then we can see extended move till 350 levels in next 2 to 3 months time horizon.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning on NDTV Profit and sharing with us your views on the markets. Please leave us with the disclosures. Mayuresh, your disclosures.
Anisha, all the stocks we've discussed, no personal holdings, but it is possible we've discussed this with our clients and we may be holding these stocks in our funds.
Samit, your disclosures.
Yes, absolutely, Anisha. We discuss about many stocks. The stocks which we have discussed on NDTV Profit, we discuss the same with our clients too. So it's better to assume that our clients might have positions. Thank you very much.
Shrikant, your disclosures?
The stock that we have discussed today are not in my portfolio, but definitely we always recommend these stocks to our clients, and it is safe to assume that these positions, they may have these stocks in their positions, in their accounts.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us on NDTV Profit.